Jingnan Campaign, or Jingnan Rebellion, was a civil war in the early years of the Ming Dynasty of China between the Jianwen Emperor and his uncle Zhu, the Prince of Yan. It started in 1399 and lasted for 3 years. The campaign ended after the forces of Prince of Yan captured the imperial capital Nanjing. The fall of Nanjing was followed by the demise of Jianwen Emperor, and Zhu was crowned the Yongle Emperor. Background: after establishing the Ming Dynasty, Zhu Yuanzhang began to consolidate the authority of the royal court. He assigned territories to the members of the royal family and stationed them across the empire. These members of the royal family did not have the administrative power over their territory, but they were entitled to a personal army that ranges from 3,000 to 19,000 men. Royal members that were stationed in the northern frontier were entitled to even larger forces. For instance, the Prince of Ning was said to have an army of over 80,000 men. The original crown prince Zhu Biao died young, and his son Zhu Yunwen was made the crown prince. Zhu Yunwen was the nephew of the territorial princes, and he felt threatened by their military power. In May 1398, Zhu Yunwen ascended the throne to become the Jianwen Emperor after the death of Zhu Yuanzhang. The princes were ordered to stay in their respective territories as the new emperor began to plan for the reduction of their military power with his close associates Qitai and Huang Zicheng. Prelude: immediately after his ascension to the throne, Zhu Yunwen, now the Jianwen Emperor, began the plan to reduce the power of each territorial prince. It was proposed that the power of Prince of Yan Zhu should be reduced first since he had the largest territory, but the proposal was declined. In July 1398, Prince Zhou was arrested in Kaifeng on treason charges. He was stripped of royal status and exiled to Yunnan. In April 1399, the princes of Qi, Xiang and De were stripped of their royal status. The princes of Qi and De were placed under house arrest in Nanjing and Datong respectively, while the Xiang prince committed suicide. 2 months later, the Prince of Min also lost his royal status and was exiled to Fujian. As the rift between regional princes and the imperial court grew, the Prince of Yan, who commanded the most powerful military, effectively assumed the leadership role. Initial stage: 1399. Attack on Beiping in December 1398. To prevent the potential attack from Prince of Yan, Jianwen Emperor appointed several imperial staff to Beiping where Zhu was stationed in. In response, Zhu pretended to be ill while preparing for the anticipated war. However, the conspiracy was reported to the imperial staff in Beiping by one of the staff in Yan court. As a result, the arrest for Prince of Yan was ordered by the imperial court. Zhang Xin, one of the imperial staff, decided to leak the imperial order to Prince of Yan. To prepare for the imminent arrest, Zhu ordered his general Zhang Yu to gather 800 men to patrol the Yan residence in Beiping. In July, the imperial staff surrounded the Yan residence, and Zhu responded by executing the imperial staff and stormed the gates of Beiping. By nightfall, Zhu was in control of the city and officially rebelled against the imperial court. For the next several days, the Yan forces captured Tongzhou, Jiizhou, Dunhua and Miyun. By the end of July, Juyong Pass, Huilei and Yongping all fell to the Yan forces and the entire Beiping area was effectively under Yan control. As the Yan forces captured Huilei, Prince of Gu fled to Nanjing from his territory in Shanfu, which was situated near the Yan forces. In August, the imperial order demanded the Prince of Liao and Ning to return to Nanjing. The Prince of Liao accepted the order while the Prince of Ning rejected. Prince of Dai intended to support the Yan forces, but was forced to remain under house arrest in Datong. Government response: 1399 to 1400. First offensive in July 1399. The news of the rebellion had arrived in Nanjing. Jianwen Emperor ordered the removal of royal status from Prince of Yan and began to assemble an attack on Yan forces. A headquarters for the expedition was set up in Zhending, Hebei province. Since many of the generals in the Ming court have either died or been purged by Zhu Yuanzhang, the lack of experienced military commanders was a major concern. With no other options, the 65-year-old Geng Bingwen was appointed as the commander and led 130,000 government forces north on an expedition against the Yan forces. On 13 August, the government forces arrived in Zhending. To prepare for the offensive, the forces were divided and stationed in Heqian, Zhengzhou and Zhongxian separately. On 15 August, the Yan forces assaulted Zhongxian and Zhengzhou by surprise and captured both of the cities while annexing its forces. One of the generals in Geng Bingwen's camp surrendered to Zhu Dai and informed him the positions of Geng Bingwen forces. Zhu Dai instructed the general to return the message that the Yan forces are approaching soon to convince Geng Bingwen to gather his forces together, to prepare for the general attack. On 24 August, the Yan forces arrived in Wujian. Based on the information gathered from the locals and the surrendered troops, they began to prepare to raid the government forces. The Yan forces launched a surprise raid on Geng Bingwen the next day, and a full-scale battle ensued. Zhu Dai personally led a strike force against the flank of government forces, and Geng Bingwen suffered a crushing defeat as a result. Over 3,000 men surrendered to the Yan forces, and the remainder of the government forces fled back to Zhending. General Gu Cheng surrendered to Zhu Dai. For the next several days, the Yan forces attempted to capture Zhending but were unable to succeed. On 29 August, the Yan forces withdrew back to Beiping. Gu Cheng were sent back to Beiping to assist Zhu Gaoqi with the defense of the city. Second offensive. As the news of Geng Bingwen's defeat reached back to Nanjing, Jianwen Emperor were starting to be concerned about the war. Li Jinglong was proposed by Huang Zicheng as the new commander, and the proposal was accepted despite of opposition from Qitai. On 30 August, Li Jinglong led a total of 500,000 men and advanced to Heqian. As the news reached the Yan camp, Zhu Dai was certain of a Yan victory by outlining the weakness of Li Jinglong. Defense of Beiping. On 1 September, government forces from Liaodong began to lay siege to the city of Yongping. Zhu Dai led the Yan forces to reinforce the city on 19 September and defeated the Liaodong forces by 25 September. Following the victory, Zhu Dai decided to raid the city of Daning controlled by Prince of Ning in order to annex his army. The Yan forces reached Daning on 6 October, and Zhu Dai went inside the city. He was able to coerce the Prince of Ning and the troops in Daning to submit to him, and the strength of the Yan forces increased significantly. Upon learning that Zhu Dai is away in Daning, the government forces led by Li Jinglong crossed Lugo Bridge and began to attack Beiping. However, Zhu Gaoqi was able to hold off the attacks. On one occasion, the government forces almost broke into the city, but the attack was held back by a suspicious Li Jinglong. The temperature in Beiping is sub-zero during the month of October, and the Yan defenders poured water on the city walls at nightfall. As the walls were covered in ice the next day, the government forces were prevented from scaling the walls. The government forces were composed of soldiers from the south, and they were unable to sustain their attack in the cold weather. Battle of Zhengkunba. On 19 October, the Yan forces gathered in Huizhou and began its march back to Beiping. By 5 November, the Yan forces were in the outskirts of Beiping and defeated the scout forces of Li Jinglong. The main army of each side engaged in Zhengkunba for a major battle in the same day, and forces of Li Jinglong suffered a crushing defeat. At nightfall, Li Jinglong retreated from Zhengkunba hastily, and the remaining attack force in Beiping were subsequently surrounded and defeated by the Yan forces. The Battle of Zhengkunba was concluded by the retreat of Li Jinglong back to Dezhou. The government forces lost more than 100,000 men in this battle. On 9 November, Zhu Dai returned to Beiping and wrote to the imperial court about his intention to remove Qitai and Huang Zicheng from their post. Jianwen Emperor declined to respond. In December, Wu Gao was dismissed from his post in Liaodong by the imperial court, and Zhu Dai decided to attack Datong. The Yan forces reached Guangchang on 24 December, and the garrison surrendered. On 1 January 1400, the Yan forces reached Baigou and was met with no resistance yet again. On 2 February, the Yan forces reached Datong and began its siege on the city. The strategic importance of Datong was significant to the imperial court, and Li Jinglong was forced to reinforce the city in a hurried manner. However, Zhu Dai returned to Beiping before the government forces could arrive, and the government forces suffered considerable amount of non-combat casualties. With his troops exhausted, Jinglong wrote to Zhu Dai and requested for armistice. During the attack in Datong, several forces from Mongolia surrendered to the Yan forces. In February, the garrison at Baoding also surrendered. Battle of Baigou River in April 1400, Li Jinglong mobilized 600,000 men and began advancing northwards toward the Baigou River. On 24 April, the Yan forces engaged with the government forces in a decisive battle. The government forces ambushed Zhu Dai, and the Yan forces suffered a series of defeat initially. Landmines were placed in the retreat path of the Yan forces by the government forces, which inflicted heavy losses for the Yan army on their way back to the camp. A new battle ensued the following day, and the government forces were successful in attacking the rear of the Yan forces. At this point, the wind started to blow and snapped the flag of Li Jinglong in half, which led to chaos in the government camp. Zhu Dai seized the opportunity and launched a general assault and defeated the government forces. More than 100,000 government troops surrendered to the Yan forces, and Li Jinglong retreated back to Dezhou once again. On 27 April, the Yan forces began marching toward Dezhou to siege the city. The Yan forces captured Dezhou on 9 May, and Li Jinglong was forced to flee to Jinan. The Yan forces followed up immediately and encircled the city of Jinan on 15 May, and Li Jinglong fled back to Nanjing. Despite of losing the entire army and being condemned by the imperial court, Li Jinglong was spared of execution. Stalemate, 1400–1401. Battle of Jinan. As the city of Jinan was under siege by the Yan forces, the defenders led by Taishan and Sheng Yong refused to surrender. On 17 May, the Yan forces diverted the river to flood the Ciy. Taishan pretended to surrender and lured Zhu Dai to the city gate. As Zhu Dai approached the city gate, he was ambushed by the government forces and fled back to the camp. The siege continued for the next 3 months. The strategic importance of Jinan was crucial, and Zhu Dai was determined to capture the city. After suffering several setbacks during the siege, Zhu Dai turned to the use of cannons. In response, the defenders resorted to placing several plaques written with the name of Zhu Yuanzhang, father of Zhu Dai, on top of the city walls. Zhu Dai was forced to stop the bombardment. In June, Jianwen Emperor dispatched an envoy to negotiate for peace, but it was rejected by Zhu Dai. The government reinforcements arrived in Heqian around July, and disrupted the supply line of the Yan forces. With the supply line threatened, Zhu Dai was forced to withdraw back to Beiping on 16 August. The garrison in Jinan followed up and recaptured the city of Dezhou. Both Taishan and Sheng Yong were promoted to replace the commanding post previously led by Li Jinglong. The government forces advanced back north and settled in Dingzhou and Kangzhou. Battle of Dongchang. In October 1400, Zhu Dai was informed that the government forces were marching northwards, and decided to launch a preemptive strike on Kangzhou. Departing from Tongzhou on 25 October, the Yan forces reached Kangzhou by 27 October and captured the city in 2 days. The Yan forces crossed the river and arrived in Dezhou on 4 November. Zhu Dai attempted to summon Sheng Yong to surrender, but was refused. Sheng Yong was defeated while leading an attack on the rear of the Yan army. In November, the Yan forces have arrived in Linking, and Zhu Dai decided to disrupt the government supply line to force Sheng Yong to abandon Jinan. To counter the decision, Sheng Yong planned for a decisive battle in Dongchang, and armed his troops with gunpowder weapons and poisonous crossbows. On the 25th of December, the Yan forces arrived in Dongchang. Sheng Yong successfully lured Zhu Dai into his encirclement, in which the Yan general Zhang Yu was killed in action while trying to break Zhu Dai out. While Zhu Dai was able to flee from the battlefield, the Yan forces suffered another defeat the next day and were forced to withdraw. On the 16th of January 1401, the Yan forces returned to Beiping. The Battle of Dongchang was the largest defeat suffered by Zhu Dai since the onset of the campaign, and he was particularly saddened by the death of Zhang Yu. During the battle, Zhu Dai was almost killed on numerous occasions. However, the government forces were instructed by Jianwen Emperor to refrain from killing Zhu Dai, in which the Prince of Yan took advantage of. The news of victory following the Battle of Dongchang was well received by Jianwen Emperor. In January 1401, Qi and Huang Zicheng were restored of their posts, and the emperor went on to worship the imperial ancestral temple in Nanjing. The military morale of Sheng Yong forces received a significant boost, and the Yan forces stayed clear of Shandong in subsequent attacks. Battle of Jia River Gaocheng. The defeat at Dongchang was a humiliating loss for Zhu Dai, but his close advisor Yao Guangshao supported to continue military operations. The Yan forces mobilized again on the 16th of February 1401 and marched southwards. In anticipation of a Yan strike, Sheng Yong stationed himself in Dezhou with 200,000 troops, while placing the remainder of the forces in Zhending. Zhu Dai decided to strike Sheng Yong first. On the 20th of March, the Yan forces encountered the forces of Sheng Yong in Jia River near Wuyi. On the 22nd of March, the Yan forces crossed the Jia River. Seeing that the camp of Sheng Yong was heavily guarded, Zhu Dai decided to personally scout the opponent to search for weak spots. Since Jianwen Emperor forbade the killing of Zhu Dai, the government forces refrained from shooting at Zhu Dai as he scouted around with minimal harassment. After the scouting operation, Zhu Dai led the Yan forces and attacked the left wing of Sheng Yong. The ensuing battle lasted until the nightfall, in which both sides suffered equal amount of casualties. Both sides engaged again the next day. After several hours of intense fighting, the wind suddenly started to blow from the northeast to southwest toward the government positions. The government forces were unable to battle against the wind as the Yan forces ran over their positions. Sheng Yong was forced to retreat to Dezhou. Government reinforcements from Zhending also retreated after hearing the news of Sheng Yong's defeat. The Battle of Jia River re-established the military edge for Prince of Yan. On the 4th of March, Qi and Huang Zicheng were held accountable for the loss and were dismissed from their post. The emperor instructed them to recruit troops from other areas. After the defeat of Sheng Yong in Jia River, the Yan forces advanced to Zhending. Zhu Dai managed to lure the government forces out of the city and engaged them in Gaocheng on the 9th of March. Facing the gunpowder weapons and crossbows utilized by the government forces, the Yan army suffered heavy losses. The battle ensued the next day, and a severe wind started to blow. The government forces were unable to hold on to its position and were crushed by the Yan forces. From Baigou River to Jia River and Gaocheng, the Yan forces were aided by the wind in all of these occasions. Zhu Dai was convinced that the Yan forces were destined for victory. Ensuing battles. In the immediate aftermath of Battle of Jia River Gaocheng, the Yan forces took the advantage and marched southwards with no resistance. Zhu Dai demanded for peace talks, and Jianwen Emperor consulted with advisor Fang Xiaonu for opinions. Fang Xiaonu suggested to pretend to negotiate while ordering the forces in Liaodong to strike Beiping. The strategy did not work as planned, and in May Sheng Yong sent out an army to attack the supply line of the Yan army. Zhu Dai claimed that Sheng Yong refused to stop military actions with ill intentions, and managed to convince Jianwen Emperor to imprison Sheng Yong. As both sides ceased to negotiate, Zhu Dai decided to raid the supply line of the government forces to starve the defenders in Dezhou. On 15 June, the Yan forces successfully destroyed the main food storage of the government forces in Pei, and Dezhou was on the brink of collapse. In July, the Yan forces captured Pengda and Lingxian. On 10 July, government forces from Zhending launched a raid on Beiping. Zhu Dai divided the army to reinforce Beiping and defeated the government forces by 18 September, in hope to reverse the tides of the battle. Imperial advisor Fang Xiaonu attempted to intensify the existing distrust between the first and second son of Zhu Dai, Zhu Gaoqi and Zhu Gaoshi. But the strategy failed once again. On 15 July, government forces led by Fang Zhao from Datong began to approach Beijing, threatening Beiping, and Zhu Dai was forced to withdraw. The Yan forces had a decisive victory in Beijing on 2 October, and Fang Zhao retreated back to Datong. On 24 October, the Yan forces returned to Beiping. The government forces from Liaodong attempted to raid the city again, but the attack was repelled. The Jingnan Campaign has been ongoing for more than 2 years, up until this point. Despite of numerous victories, the Yan forces were unable to hold on to territories due to lack of manpower.